I'm Rob Phillips. I'm the chairman of Uscom Limited, and it's now past 11:30 a.m. and we have a quorum. So I declare the 2021 Uscom Annual General Meeting open. With me in the virtual meeting are my fellow directors, Brett Crowley, Christian Bernicker and Shahui Mung. Also in attendance from our auditors are John Breslin and Tina Han. So welcome. We're using Zoom technology to conduct this meeting virtually today, and shareholders can submit questions related to resolutions at any time. To ask a question, press on the Q&A icon and type your question. If you'd like to ask your question verbally, just click raise your hand in the webinar control. The meeting today will be to deal with the resolutions and will be followed immediately after by an AGM 21 presentation and update. So if shareholders wish to have any questions or comments about the company operations, if you could keep those until the end of the Uscom presentation and update, which will be outside of the annual general meeting. When we reach the formal business of the meeting, voting on all resolutions will be conducted by poll. And if you've already lodged a proxy vote, please note that you do not need to vote again. It's already recorded and counted in the poll for each resolution as per your proxy instructions. We now move to the formal business as set out in the notice of meeting. And the notice of annual general meeting was released to the ASX on the 13th of September 2021 and is now taken as read. We'll now proceed to the resolutions as set out in the notice of annual general meeting. The first item of business is to receive the company's annual financial report for the year ended 30th of June 2021. There'll be no vote on this item as it's only open for discussion. So for shareholders or board members, anybody wishing to ask any questions of the board or the auditors, just click raise your hand and we can then open the mic so that we can all hear any questions that you might have. So the company's annual financial report is now open to the floor. So are there any questions? Any comments? Susanna, maybe you can just let me know if there are.
Sure. There's none.
None so far?
Sure, no problem. No questions so far.
No questions, just wait another 30, 40 seconds, give it a minute. Okay, let's move forward to the resolutions. And I declare that all resolutions will be decided by way of a poll. The proxies received in relation to each of the resolutions has been compiled by the company's share registrar boardroom and are now on show on the screen. I now declare the poll open and it will remain open until I close it at the end of the formal business. So you can vote at any time as we pass through the resolutions, and at the end of discussion of the resolutions, there will be a further minute and then I'll close the poll, and those results will be coordinated with the proxies on the screen now and be released to the ASX later today. So the poll's open. If you've already submitted a proxy, it's not necessary to vote during this meeting. Resolution 1 is as follows: that the remuneration report for the year ended 30th of June 2021, as set out in the director's report, be adopted. So are there any questions in relation to this resolution? If you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll open the mic for you. So question one, resolution one rather, is the adoption of the remuneration report. Any questions? Okay, resolution two, moving on to resolution two, that Mr. Christian Bernicker retires by rotation in accordance with rule 6.4 of the company's constitution, and being eligible for re-election, be re-elected as a director of the company. Are there any questions in relation to this resolution? If so, please raise your hand and we'll open the mic so you can make your comment. Okay, a little longer there. Any more questions for resolution two? Again, the poll's open, so you can vote as you feel and as you wish. Resolution three, moving on, is as follows: that for the purpose of ASX Listing Rule 7.4 and for all other purposes, the issue of 178,571 shares at an issue price of 14 cents per share on the 26th of February 2021 to the person identified and on the terms described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of the notice of meeting, be approved. Are there any questions in relation to this resolution? If so, again, just raise your hand. Moving on to resolution number 4, that for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 7.4 and for all other purposes, the issue of 434,782 shares at an issue price of 11.5 cents per share on the 26th of May 2021 to the person identified and on the terms described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of this notice of meeting, be approved. Are there any questions in relation to this resolution? Again, please raise your hand digitally if you have any questions. Okay, we'll move on. Resolution 5 is as follows: that for the purposes of ASX Listing Rule 7.4 and for all other purposes, the issue of 568,966 shares at an issue price of 15 cents per share on the 24th of August 2021 to the people identified and on the terms described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of this notice of meeting, be approved. So if there are any questions again for resolution 5, please raise your hand and make yourself known. So resolution 5, again, no questions. So we'll move on to resolution 6. For the purposes of ASX listing rule 7.4 and for all other purposes, the issue of the 200,000 shares and the issue price of 12.5 cents per share on the 24th of August 2021 to the person identified and on the terms described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of the notice of meeting, be approved. Again, any questions related to the resolution, please raise your hand. If there are no questions, we'll proceed to resolution 7. In normal circumstances, as chairman of the meeting, I would stand down and hand over to Brett Crowley to chair the meeting, as I'm a beneficiary of the resolution. But as this is a digital meeting, it's appropriate to just continue on. Read it. There is no vote immediately. You can poll at any time. So resolution 7 is as follows: that for the purpose of ASX listing rule 10.14 and for all other purposes, the grant to the executive chairman, Associate Professor Rob Phillips, of up to 1,636,782 share rights for nil financial consideration, which, subject to the achievement of performance and vesting conditions, may convert to ordinary shares in the capital of Uscom Limited on a 1-for-1 basis under the Uscom Limited Equity Incentive Plan, on the terms described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of the notice of meeting, be approved. Are there any questions with regard to resolution 7? And if so, please raise your hand. Moving on then, there doesn't seem to be any questions. Remember, the poll is open continuously as we read out the resolution, so you can vote at any stage. Resolution 8 is as follows: that pursuant to and in accordance with ASX listing rule 7.1a and for all other purposes, shareholders approve the issue of ordinary shares up to 10% of the issued capital of the company at the time of the issue, calculated in accordance with the formula prescribed in the ASX listing rule 7.1a.2 and on terms and conditions described in the explanatory statement, which forms part of this notice of meeting. Are there any questions in relationship to resolution 8? And again, if so, please raise your hands. Okay, that concludes the resolutions to be voted on today. So can all shareholders voting online please ensure that you've submitted your votes? I'll allow a minute before the poll is closed. If you need any assistance, please just raise your hand. Just wait a little time so everybody gets a chance to register their vote. Okay, I now declare the poll closed. So the votes for the sorry, Mr. Mung.
Mr. Mung said he cannot vote online.
He can't vote online.
Yeah.
Oh.
He can't click on the payroll.
Okay, well, I think what we'll do is make a judgment on that. Brett, are you there? Mr. Mung is a shareholder. He's registered and he can't mechanically vote.
That's right. If he can just email the votes through to me, and I'll add them to the totals.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll let him know.
That, Chichi?
Yes.
If we can get that done as quickly as possible, so we can get that to boardroom. Okay, so including Mr. Mung's vote, I now declare the poll closed. Again, all of those votes, including Mr. Mung's, will be added to the valid lodged proxies, and the results will be announced to the ASX later today. So that concludes the formal part of the business, and I'd like to thank all shareholders for their attendance and declare the meeting closed. But don't leave yet. I'll just close the polls here. So as the Uscom AGM is now complete, I'll welcome you to the AGM 21 presentation and update. Remember, at the end of the presentation, we will have an open question and comment section where all shareholders have the opportunity to discuss with the board and management and auditors any questions or concerns or interests that they may have, or comments with regard to the year just past. So Uscom's building a world-leading medical technology enterprise, combining life-saving cardiovascular and pulmonary technologies that establish new standards of medical excellence and global academic recognition and sustainable profits. And it's our expanding global team working together that have made FY21 another landmark year in the history of Uscom. We are a team motivated by vision and driven by fundamentals, while our culture is collaborative and our opportunities outstanding. Each of our team has written a small piece of the history of Uscom. They've also written a small piece of global clinical medicine. And I'd like to thank them all for their ongoing contribution to our excellent FY21 results. I'd also like to thank our board, Mr. Christian Bernicker, Mr. Brett Crowley, and Mr. Mung Xian Wei, for their guidance and contribution to the management of Uscom. Of course, I'd also like to thank our Uscom investors for their support as we create a great international medical technology company. Uscom is ASX listed and develops, manufactures and distributes Apex cardiovascular and pulmonary digital technologies. Financial results continue to grow with major subsidiaries in China and Europe, both profitable in FY21. Over the last 9 years, cash receipts have grown 535% at a compound annual growth rate of 24% per annum. Uscom has cash in the bank and remains debt-free. We've also expanded our global operations and increased our IP-protected products for market in FY22. The company is at a classic inflection point as it prepares for strong future growth. Our continuing success and rapidly expanding global footprint is leading us to examine corporate strategic opportunities to accelerate incremental growth and deliver operational scale and shareholder value. Uscom's an established medical technology enterprise with an expanding international network of operations acting as hubs for regional distribution. This global network has been developed to accommodate our current 24% growth rate and in preparation for an expected increase in demand for our newly approved products. Uscom was founded over 20 years ago and has grown at 24% per annum for the last 9 years. Uscom's now sold over 1,500 Uscom 1A units and has brought to market 8 new products in the last 12 months, which will begin contributing new revenue in the coming financial period. Uscom has in excess of 200 discrete worldwide intellectual property submissions protecting the current novel Uscom devices and our developing product pipeline of new products. Uscom cardiovascular and pulmonary medical technologies include the Uscom 1A, the Uscom BP+, Spirosonic series of devices, and Venti Test, ventilator testing technology. These are all high-value digital technologies. These devices generate a rapidly growing reservoir of high-quality cardiovascular and pulmonary data for analysis, sale, and research. This data can be integrated into the Uscom Blue Sky eHealth ecosystem, a proprietary ecosystem that we are building to harness the power of Uscom technology and deliver it to patients and clients worldwide, thus creating a valuable global pool of health data. Uscom devices address the big global health questions. They're specialised for use in 7 of the World Health Organization's top 10 causes for death. And they address diseases responsible for more than 75% of all global mortality, disease mortality, such as heart failure, hypertension, vascular disease, asthma, COPD, and COVID, sepsis, and maternal and neonatal health, and others. Uscom is the centre of global health. Uscom technologies address valuable markets. They are valued at multiple billions and with high projected growth rates. And this organic market growth underwrites Uscom revenues from its current technologies, while new device approvals in new markets will incrementally drive growth. New technologies from current and future IP will further stimulate Uscom's mid-term growth. The Uscom Blue Sky Health ecosystem is the digital platform to umbrella our devices and software so that we can archive, integrate, analyse and report the data from all Uscom technologies. This is a cloud-based technology that will combine the power of our current hardware and software and store data in the cloud. This creates a new platform for monetisation with subscription services, pay-per-use features and metadata analysis, and of course hardware unit sales. And this creates a new cascade of revenue. eHealth is a powerful driver of future prosperity for medical device companies. We've invested significantly in eHealth to create the Blue Sky eHealth ecosystem. And this technology is designed to be at the centre of global digital health revolution. The current market is $60 billion and predicted to grow at 19.4% to an excess of $200 billion in 2027. This market growth is expected to drive Uscom foreseeably. The results for 2021 demonstrate sales, revenue, and cash receipts growth, and our first ever positive operational net cash flow. FY21 was our first year of cash receipts greater than 5.5 million, despite it being a difficult trading year beset by intermittent lockdowns and travel restrictions. Uscom China was profitable for its second consecutive year of incorporation, while Uscom Europe was profitable for its first year since incorporation 10 years ago. The Uscom 1A generates 77% of all Uscom revenue, with Spirosonic contributing 19% and BP Plus 4%. Regionally, more than 64% of our total sales were derived from China and Southeast Asia, with 26% derived from Europe and less than 10% received from the US. We anticipate total sales to continue increasing in all jurisdictions from organic growth and as new approvals are received and the pandemic settles. FY21 saw total cash receipts grow 21% and exceed 5.5 mil for the first time. These results conclude a 535% growth trend in total receipts over the last 9 consecutive years, with a compound annual growth rate of 24%. In the closing months of FY21, Uscom received a number of long-awaited regulatory approvals for each of our products in Europe, China, and Russia. Each market is large with a significant sales potential and will add immediate revenue and has additional growth potential as our distributors gain market penetration. These recent regulatory approvals in China, Europe, Russia, and Southeast Asia increase our market opportunity. Pending approvals for China and the US are expected in the next 6 months, and they will further boost regional sales. These new approvals will increase Uscom's product regions by 140% and set the foundation for Uscom's FY22, more products, more distributors, more sales, and more revenue strategy. This 140% increase in sales regions is anticipated to significantly grow revenue as new specialised distributors are appointed, inducted, and become active in new markets. This year, Uscom, just see that puts. This year, Uscom Limited reached a corporate landmark with the manufacture of its 1500th Uscom 1A. The Uscom 1A continues to save lives and find new and critical applications in the field of COVID and preeclampsia, while remaining the cornerstone of non-invasive cardiovascular critical care monitoring in neonates, children, and adults. Medical devices which change medical practice are rare, and one that endures as a global gold standard and continues to expand its utility is even more rare. And proudly for Uscom, the Uscom 1A is one of these. The COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most important social and medical events of our time, and Uscom technologies are at the forefront of its diagnosis and management. The Uscom 1A is a superior technology for management of severe cardiovascular failure from COVID, and it was recommended by the Wuhan Adult and Pediatric Critical Care Societies, the National Health and Medical Commission of the People's Republic of China, and the International Society of Critical Care Medicine Pediatric guidelines in the US. More than 50 infectious disease centres have been established for treatment of severe COVID patients using the Uscom 1A in China. As infectious diseases become a more recognised part of global social health, we anticipate Uscom technologies to become increasingly adopted in their acute and chronic management. The Spirosonic Air is the most advanced digital multipath ultrasonic spirometer and provides precision measures of lung function. The Air wirelessly connects patients and clinicians by the Spirosonic Air cycle, communicating data, information, diagnosis, reports, and prescriptions freely. The wireless Spirosonic Air is web connected via the Spirosonic app and is ideally suited for home monitoring of asthma, COPD, and post-COVID syndrome. The spirometry market is expected to grow by 160% over the next 6 years. Spirosonic Air Cycle is the leading technology in spirometry and provides multiple opportunities for revenue generation. Venti Test, there has been an explosion of ventilator sales during the COVID-19 pandemic, with annual sales increasing by over 170%. Ventilators require frequent calibration to ensure accurate and precise ventilation, and the new Venti Test ventilator tester and the Venti Test software provides the most sensitive method to ensure this accuracy and reduce the incidence of ventilator-induced lung injury. Ventilator calibration is a significant market for Uscom's high-fidelity digital ultrasonic spirometer technology, and we continue clinical optimization of the devices as we prepare them for global release. Uscom is also transitioning into a complex global organisation, and that requires specialised divisions for oversight of finance and management, marketing, sales and distribution, manufacturing and R&D. Uscom is establishing these separate divisions and looking to build on these foundations to ensure a coordinated global growth. Outstanding international R&D is central to new product development, and Uscom continues collaborating with some of the world's leading scientists, including Professor Stéphane Carlier from the University of Mons in Belgium, as we develop new technologies and concepts. Professor Carlier is an invasive cardiologist and physiologist and an expert biomedical engineer, and is a founding member of the Uscom Medical Advisory Board. He is conducting invasive research on the newly released BP Plus and BP Plus reporter. And this is going on in his catheter lab in Mons. And Uscom prides itself in its global network of world-leading cardiovascular and pulmonary researchers, all of whom contribute to the scientific integrity of our devices. Uscom China remains Uscom's fastest growing subsidiary, with the highest levels of global sales. The relationship with Chinese national and provincial government regulators and administrators remains strong, with Uscom China receiving 2 significant endorsements from government organisations. Uscom's been listed as a China National High Technology Enterprise by the People's Republic of China Ministry of Health and Science, Ministry of Science and Technology, and also ranked as a AAA credit enterprise by the China Credit Enterprise Publicity Network, recognising Uscom's China's scientific and operational performance. FY22 regional strategy is focused on China as we increase distribution, prepare new products for market, and develop a domestic manufacturing strategy. In Europe, increasing our manufacturing capabilities and growing regional distribution and sales is our objective, while in Southeast Asia, building out our current distribution and expanding regulatory approvals is our priority. In the US, our new distribution model is beginning to take hold as the economy recovers and Spirosonic approaches approval. FY21 was a very good year for Uscom, with improved financials and significant operational investment, positioning the company for an excellent FY22. Our goals for FY22 are to grow and consolidate the company, focusing on establishing a profit as a standard of operation, supported by the development of new technologies and an expanded global manufacturing and distribution organisation. Of critical importance to investors has been the poor recognition of our consistently excellent results by the market. Our revenue has grown by nearly 600% over the last 9 years, while the share price of the company has remained effectively unchanged. The board and management are aware of this disconnect, and we're looking to develop strategic options to increase shareholder value as we continue to grow revenue and profit. We look forward to ensuring all shareholders receive fair value for their UCM investments. We've invested in the fundamentals of the company. We expect a transformational year for FY22. Our next steps are directed at utilising our vision, culture, people, a global strategy, organisation, products and sales to deliver growth and sustainable profit for shareholders. We are invested in the future. FY21 was a year of performance and investment. with strong revenue growth, operating cash flow positivity, China profit, Europe profit, and multiple device approvals. For FY22, growth and profit is our target. We plan expanded distribution, new manufacturing, new R&D initiatives, operational restructure to enhance profit, and a strategic corporate review to identify incremental growth opportunities. For everyone involved in Uscom, including the staff, board, and investors, thank you for your support during FY21. It has created an exciting opportunity as we look forward to even greater achievements in FY22. Thank you. Just as an addendum to our presentation, Uscom supports the Australian Wildlife Conservancy as a part of its corporate responsibility, and we'd like to demonstrate that growing a great company involves vision, and Uscom's commitment to the Australian Wildlife Conservancy reminds us of some of our broader human values and responsibility. So that's the end of our presentation, and I'd now like to welcome any questions and comments from shareholders. Again, this is open. It's no longer part of the general meeting. The board, auditors, and management are open for any comments or questions. Do you have any questions?
Hi, Rob. We have 2 outstanding questions from our investors.
Okay.
The first one from Adrian. Why is there only 2% of total sales of Uscom devices in Australia? I understand the need to push globally, but why is there no push to get these products into our own country?
That's an interesting observation, Adrian, and I think it's largely got to do with population. Australia is 24 million people. China is 1.4 billion people. On a per capita basis, we sell twice as many products into Australia as we do in China. The US has been a challenge, but again, the sales per capita into the US and into Europe are greater than, are less than the per capita sales into Australia. I guess also, having said that, you can never have enough sales and enough distribution. In Australia, we've been progressing our distribution strategy, and internationally, we can spend our dollars in one place. We spend it where the market's the greatest. So the response to that is, 1, we sell twice as much per capita in Australia than anywhere else. And 2, with limited funds, you focus your attention and your marketing to the biggest returning markets, China, US, and Europe.
Thanks, Rob. We got a next question is from Roger. Shareholders and investors would like to know what company risk mitigation is in place to navigate our company through the escalating situation with China, and also if sales in China are on schedule or not. Thank you.
Sorry, Susanna, what was the last part of that question?
If sales in China are on schedule or not.
Look, the issue with China is, well, it's not an issue with China, it's an actual geopolitical issue between US, China, and Australia. We prefer not to get involved. We see ourselves as medical diplomats. Health is beyond geopolitics, and we stay clear of that. We are good corporate citizens of Australia, the US, and China, and continue to perform dutifully in the market and make sure that everybody has access to the highest quality of healthcare. The potential risks with China are the same as the potential risks in the US and Europe and in Australia. There are all kinds of shifting sands, if you like, that as management we address and manage as best we can. One of the things that we've done in the last 3 or 4 years has been to expand internationally. We've developed additional personnel and a new sales marketing division in Europe, and we've developed an entirely different marketing strategy in the US. So these are now starting to progress and do well. So I think as everybody in the international business is aware, you be aware and alert to potential changes. China continues to be our largest source of sales. We are adapting and adjusting wherever change is required, and we'll continue to do so. Our sales are impacted much more by COVID than any geopolitical impact.
Thanks, Rob. We got James who wants to ask a question. Just allow to talk now. James, are you there? Sorry, moving on to next. I think Teresa's got a question. Hi, Teresa.
No, it's not a question. It's just some addition to the previous questions that our investors raised. The first is about the difference between the sales from Australia and China. And as the investor asked why we sell much more in China than in Australia. And it is just a basic concept about where we spend our resources. And as you all know that we are still a startup with limited resources. In this case, we have to just spend our resources in the most efficient and rewarding area to start with. However, with our resources grow, we will just try to grow the other regions step by step. For example, I just received a call the day before yesterday from Anhui. Anhui is a province in China. I just received a call from Anhui hospitals, from Anhui hospital affiliated to a local university, saying that they are carrying on clinical research in collaboration with an Australian hospital. And as you can see that this would become a trend step by step, that we will somehow bridge our China Research Foundation and Clinical Application Foundation to Australia and try to grow more kind of cross-national cooperation to boost and to make our clinical users more familiar with our product applications. And in this case, we will just gradually grow the trend of our product application. And another answer for the other question, which is about the concern for graphical kind of complications. This is a question, and this might be a challenge that we have to admit and face. And regarding this, sometimes we may need to provide more products with kind of diversified manufacturing sites. For example, if there are some restrictions for the kind of Australian-made product, this might be a case regionally, but not for all of the hospitals. But even just for this possible risk, we will start to kind of place some manufacture for example, in China and in some areas if needed, and to face the possible complications. But we will just kind of pay attention to the possible changes. And in this case, however the change is, we will somehow prepare for it and maximize the opportunities, because it's still kind of big market, and we have to deal with it. That's my answer as an addition. Thanks.
Thanks, Teresa. That's great and much appreciated. For those of you who don't know, Teresa is our Director of International Operations and General Manager of China. So she's definitely across that. One of the background bits of information that Teresa just raised was the collaboration at Anhui Hospital is with the Menzies Research Institute in Australia. And we're looking at, and have been looking at, it's a randomised controlled trial, a very large randomised controlled trial now with international collaborators that allows us to use BP plus and clinical observations in a clinical algorithm that will allow clinicians to precisely predict cardiovascular risk factors. And it's a very exciting bit of research, and it's great that cross-border research overwhelms the geopolitical interventions that interfere with our lives sometimes. Sorry, Susanna, next.
We got another question from Adrian. Do any Uscom products generate recurring revenue?
Well, I think yes, they do is the right way to put it, but they generate them in different ways. And a lot of what our product development now is directed towards is to make sure that we have recurrent software updates, for example, and we can store that on the cloud. If we can start making our devices cloud-based. The BP Plus has cuffs and other consumables, and the Spirosonic devices certainly have mouthpieces, disinfections, and they actually require replacement. But the software model is really the model where you get a recurrent revenue. And you might remember from some of my presentation that I'm emphasising the shift towards an e-health modus. And it just seems to be the way that modern medical devices are going. And that is, you've got internet connection anywhere, you can store data in the cloud, you can download and upgrade software in the cloud that can be accessed via the internet. So the matter of distribution is simplified, and the matter of charging is simplified for all of those who use Apple Music and any of the online distribution portals. It's so convenient and so easy and so rapid. And medical devices, although they're sort of impeded a little bit perhaps with privacy issues, they are getting there. And ultimately, this will be the way that our products will be delivered and our services will be delivered. So we are transitioning to a bigger consumable model, if you like.
Thanks, Rob. Next question is from James. What needs to be in place for UCN to begin paying dividends?
More sales, I would say. more sales and more revenue. And that's what we're trying to do. Look, I don't think anybody wants, we could have started paying dividends when we had $1 million revenue if you cut your costs. People always ask me this, okay, how do we have dividends? It's a very fine balance. Teresa highlighted that we are a startup in many respects. And until you actually get decent revenues, cost cutting to deliver dividends is counterproductive. Like, we can cut cost out of our business now and it will be at the expense of growth. So it's a very subtle interplay. And at the moment, we're just proud that we're sort of not having to keep raising capital, let alone start returning capital. But the objective obviously is to return capital. And that's really where we're headed at the moment. And you can see all of our strategies are focused on increasing number of products, expanding our distribution, increasing our sales, increasing our revenue, and increasing our profit. Ultimately, that's the path to dividends. And that's very much what we're focused on. We may well be a sort of a science-focused product-based company, but profits and dividends is where we're headed. And that's the transition that we're making at the moment. It's also why we're dividing sort of divisions into the company so that we can specialize at an international level. It's why we set up multiple regional headquarters. We now have regional headquarters in Sydney, Singapore, Beijing, Budapest, and they are all capable of administering regional operations. So that's the platform for growth for us. And that's the platform for dividends.
Thanks, Rob. There's no more questions for now.
I just perhaps go back to that and say, look, we've grown at an average of 24% per annum for the last 9 years. If we continue growing at 24% per annum, you all know the exponential pattern that returns. And we are at the stage, the point of inflection now. We are driving hard to increase our sales. We're increasing the number of products we're putting into the market. We're expanding our operations. If we continue to grow by 24% only, it's inevitable that we will be very profitable very soon. We expect to expand our growth rate by more than that as our new products come into the market and our new divisions start becoming operative and effective over the next year or so. So are there any further questions for me, Teresa, Mr. Wang, Brett, Christian, the auditors? Anybody? No more questions, Susanna?
No.
Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you very much for your participation. We look forward to a wonderful and exciting year for Uscom in FY22. And thanks for everybody who's contributed to FY21. Thank you.